All right, with that, we are back. Now, the second half of this activity, I'm assuming is going to take a lot of multi-body modeling. Now, I know the ears and the other eye and the tongue, the tail, you know, the little hair bits here, even his drool, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that same thing with the legs, and that way I can copy them and use them on both sides and kind of curve them in individually. And of course, you know, real anatomy is that the legs are gonna come off of the side here. So we wanna keep that 3D element in mind. And it's not just the 2D image that we're looking at. So we'll make his body a little bit more round as we go with this as well. Now, since we're talking about multi-body in this case, we're talking about the ability to color these as well. So I'm gonna take this image here, just double click on it for a second, and we're gonna get rid of the transparency. I want that to be as bright and sharp as possible for this segment of this. I wanna go ahead and just capture some of the colors. Now, colors can be done down on our tools toolbar as well. This little color wheel is going to allow you to select an item on the screen. Now, what we're gonna do is pick faces on this one. Now, for faces, I'm gonna make this very strategic, right? I'm actually gonna turn this off for a moment because I wanna just do some window selecting. And that gives me the opportunity to maybe take this part here and turn off or hide, I guess, the view of that. So we'll get rid of his body. Now, that's just gonna leave us with the sphere that we used for the eye. So I want to go ahead and just say color, and we're going to pick faces. I'm going to window select everything that's here. I just want to roll around the back side just to ensure that I got everything on behind, selecting through what's on the screen, and that allows me to just change the color here. Now, for the color that we're going to use on this one, I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab white, and it doesn't look perfectly white, but that's because of the shadowing that we use with this particular type of tool. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to flip the process. Let's go ahead and hide the eyeball, and let's go ahead and show our body. So same kind of thing. Let's just grab this part here, and we'll just window select the faces, and if I add additional faces, we may have to come back and deal with this. So this is one of those things that sometimes you want to just leave till the end, but I'm going to go ahead and start with a little bit of a color here, and then maybe, you know, mute that a little bit, and go ahead and grab those. Now, the color chooser that I've got right here, like I said, when I go ahead and select this, what I would rather do is go ahead and select on screen. We're going to go ahead and put an enhancement request for a nice eyedropper color picker on something like this. But as we're working on this, once again, we just want to make sure that we've got all these faces selected, and with their current color there, we can go ahead and set them close to what we want. Now, for what I need here, this is actually pretty easy to go ahead and look at it and kind of do some visual comparisons. And it looks like I'm kind of in the ballpark here. So that actually is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and leave it at that color. Maybe go ahead and, oh, I just canceled that color. That's my bad. I'm going to start with that yellow once again. This is the range that I was in. So we're going to go ahead and leave it right there. Wanted to add that to our palette, but let's just go ahead and apply that. Okay, it looks pretty good. So we are done at this point. All right, we'll turn the eyeball back on just for the ability to see, no pun intended, in you know, what our 3D is coming down to look like here. And I want to go ahead and add that item to the opposite side. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and copy this eyeball right here. We're going to do that by grabbing the subdivision surface itself and just hitting Control-C on the keyboard, Windows normal thing. Control-V to paste it. Now what it did is it created an additional subdivision surface. If I double click that, that will enable me to go ahead and window select everything that we have on screen. And if we slide that to the opposite side, you can see that that helps us separate one eyeball from the other. So now if we're looking at that from a front view, now we can kind of deal with you know, both of these individually. So we'll see how that starts to look. Looks like he's a bit bug-eyed right now, but that's okay. We're going to see how this evolves. Nice organic process. Again, no pun intended there. So that gives us our opposite side eyeball there as well. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and create one of these ears. So we are going to start once again by using a subdivisional body. Now the body I want to use on this one, again, I like to keep these things somewhat close to what we're working with here. And a quad ball gives us a lot of opportunity when it comes to, you know, these round shapes that we see here. So I just kind of want to go to the center here, and we're just going to drop that right there on the mid plane. Now for this particular quad ball, we're going to change the scale of this quite a bit. I'm going to kind of narrow that down quite a little bit. The fact that it is a ball, though, kind of makes it a spherical item there. So I only have the one size that I can really go ahead and manipulate. So as we're looking at this from the side, I want to get that a little bit, you know, closer to what we're looking at when it comes to the overall position here. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to go ahead and say okay to that and start working with it individually. So we'll grab the front half here. Maybe I'll just go ahead and pull that straight and, you know, again, kind of do a little bit of a scale inward. It's not quite what I'm looking for there, but you know, I have the ability to go ahead and kind of grab these faces along the top here and pull those up individually as well. And this stuff out here at the end, again, planer pulling that. I'm just trying to map the edges that we see here pretty good. Now, grabbing some of the, well, I'm going to do a little undo there. Let's go back to where I was just a second there on the side. That was an undo necessary. Undo is one of those things that you use as much as you need to, of course. But I must have clicked one of my toolbars as they popped up here because I was aligning all of these selections to a flat point. Not what I was looking to do right there. Okay, I think I'm going to do this by adding again another area here where we're going to do some subdividing. I just want to bring this area down. And you know, for what we have, I'm not using symmetry at this point. We'll just grab these faces and maybe just throw some clay at those. So subdivide that a little bit by adding an extrude. That's going to give us some additional material to be able to go ahead and manipulate down here at the bottom. So we can grab both of those using the Shift key once again, and I'm going to go to a side view here, and we'll see what we can do by trying to recreate these shapes. That's not so bad there. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to take this face here and again kind of pull it outward. And using these types of manipulators, again, when we pull these pieces in place, you can roll the faces as well, and that kind of changes their angle of attack. So that's a real strategic way to be able to grab this geometry and be able to you know, again, move it in the direction that we need to in order to map these shapes. So, okay, so let's go ahead and grab this edge. I want to pull that kind of up and back a little bit just to see if that's going to change the way this curvature influence takes place here as well. Just seeing what I can do. Again, it's a trial and error in the largest degree. So we're grabbing different faces and edges and just, again, doing happy little clouds here, just kind of moving things around and seeing what takes place, right? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that was an interesting little move right there. Great, well that allows me to go ahead now and bring this bottom edge kind of out and down and maybe even, you know, curve that a little bit more. Now I need a little bit more control in this area here. So what I want to do is just select this segment, and we're going to use this item here that allows us to add a new loop, and it's going to basically go perpendicular to that and add a whole nother segment in this area. It gives us just more refinement points. This is where we can choose this at the beginning of the whole thing, but here this enables us to, as we go, add more detail, right? We start with the less is more operation, and then at this point we're just going to go ahead and you know, give it a little bit more detail as we deem necessary. So, okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that. Now let's take a look at the side view here for a second. The side view isn't too bad. His ear is a little bit wide. I'm matching the shape that we have behind it as well, so I'm going to kind of stick with that. But you know, maybe we'll go ahead and take some of this area in the middle here, and maybe we'll go ahead and expand that out. Now, I want to use symmetry once again. Symmetry enables me to grab a plane in the middle of this whole deal. We're going to use our side plane again, and that's going to give us a green line right down the middle of this part that we're working on. And when we go ahead and do that, let's grab that plane one more time. Good. Okay, it gives us a green line right down the middle of what we're working on right there. And that enables us to just kind of grab what's on one side of this and not have to select everything on both sides. So as I do that, we're going to get, you know, some symmetrical operations happening. That's pretty easy, and that's really all I wanted to do there. All right, that is quite good. We're going to exit that one. And now again, I want to copy what we have here. We're doing this live, so we're kind of feeling out what actually happens here. But first, I'm going to take everything that we're working on and we're going to move it. So with this one here, because we're going to play that way, let me just do a simple window select of everything that we've got. We'll slide that all over to the side. Now, I had symmetry turned on. That was a mistake. When you have symmetry turned on, it's actually trying to flip those around that symmetry plane again. So let me deselect all of that and turn off symmetry. And we're just going to move the ear again over to one side. Now, once I've got this to one side, I actually just want to copy these entities. So we go back over to the subdivision surface, Control-C, Control-V, and it copies it directly in place. And if we double-click the new version of that and kind of window and drag the opposite direction, you'll see that we get, you know, both of those ears available to us. Now, with ODIE, I'm sure that the bottom of these ears actually is kind of moved in and over a little bit more. So we're going to grab what we've got here and kind of pull those in. Make them a little bit more inquisitive, right? Go ahead and pull those out and around, maybe twist it a little bit more. That looks like a great way to go ahead and kind of take his ears and do a little bit more with them. Now, from the side image here, one ear is a little bit more forward. We're going to take the opportunity to grab this second ear here and maybe just go ahead and slide the whole thing a little bit forward a little bit as well, just to change a little bit of where this one looks. And then even on top of that, let's just grab the top part of the ear. and maybe just move that part of it forward, right? Grab down here. I'm going to go back and we're going to do a nice little lasso select and just get this area right down in here. It's not bad. Not too bad. All right, we'll kind of refine those in. That looks pretty good. Okay, so the one ear on one side is going to be a little bit different than the one ear on the other. That's pretty good. Now let's go back to the original ear here and we'll double click that guy. Because of the feature history, you see that like with SolidWorks, you get the feature history. We've rolled back to the item that we're editing here. So that is something that's, again, going to be a very common workflow, something that people are very comfortable with. All right, that was just a nice little twist. I think that looks pretty good. Now, in both of these situations, you know, we're going to colorize these things. So I'm just going to use just a basic brown on each of these, but let's go through the same operation we were doing before where I turned off some of the other bodies that we have here. So if I want to work on just one of these, let's just kind of get rid of the rest of those. And I could probably wait till the end to do this. But I kind of like to make it look as real as possible as I'm working on it. So we're going to take just this last one that we have here, and we're just going to colorize that. So let's go to the tools with our color wheel. And because I can grab it separate from the rest, let's go ahead and just grab what we've got here. Now I grabbed a couple of faces of ODIE down here as well. So let me just deselect that. Not too bad for the segments that we've got there. And we want to go brown. So I'm going to take that brown and then we'll kind of refine the brown and see if we can get that a little closer to the brown that we see on his representation image here. Yeah, a lot of trial and error here too. We're going to request a color picker, but you know, who knows? That might be in the next functional development. That's one of the real exciting parts about what we do here, is that we're constantly getting new functionality available to us. Very, very, very cool stuff. Okay, so let's take the other ear. Let's go ahead and duplicate that effort. We might want to turn off the rest of ODIE and the other eyeball. So let's do that. And then we'll use our color wheel to go ahead and grab all these faces. Okay, great. Grab a nice little brown there. And then let's take that brown and kind of get it as close as possible. All right, not too bad. This is where I might want to start joining things a little bit later and you know, potentially going ahead and making those grouped objects, so I can go ahead and just duplicate the colors of each of those. Okay, it's looking pretty good right now. I want to go ahead for just a moment here and really get a feel for what I'm seeing here, and that's going to entail turning that picture back off for a moment. So let's go ahead and see what we've got. Now, ODIE is looking a little bit funky right now. I think it's more or less because its eyes are just a little bit too pronounced for what I have for a snout here. So I just want to go ahead and double click on this body for a moment and maybe take that and just kind of make it a little bit more pronounced. So I'm window selecting around that, but I'm going to go around to the front side and we're going to scale that out just a little bit more, which is going to give him, again, more cartoonish features with what we're looking at. And since I haven't added any geometry, all of the things that we had worked on before are going to keep their colors. So that should look pretty good. Now, I think he's going to look better in a couple of different areas here in just a moment. And that's going to be when I add the nose. The nose might give it a little bit more of the realistic look that we're looking for. So let's start again with another multi-body here. We'll go to subdivision. And then this one here, I'm just going to go ahead and take the quad ball. So we'll take a little quad ball and we'll drop it right up here, kind of in his nose area. And using the overall scale, let's just take that down to about the size we're looking for. Okay, very nice. Now, I know that his nose is wide, so we're going to go ahead and put it in that position. And let's take this guy here and put a little transparency to it so that I can see better what we're working with. So with everything in position, let's just grab this part here, maybe grab the back half of his nose. That's going to be this stuff back here. Maybe drag that down and out a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good, frankly. Whatever we have here is going to be touching and intersecting his face. So I think we're going to go ahead and say okay to that and just leave it. And that gives ODIE a little bit more of that third dimension, right? I think you agree. If I turn that picture off, right, that's looking quite a bit better. Now, I'm going to see if I can go ahead and grab my tools and using this selection method. Yeah, it's not going to grab it that way. I don't have any selection sets to grab, my knit faces. That's design features. Yeah, we don't want to grab all those. Interesting. So we'll go ahead and just grab the faces that we can see here on the screen. It's selected a few of my other ones behind there. So I'm going to kind of just go ahead and toggle those back off. Yikes. Yeah, I don't want to grab those as well. So I'm going to do a little bit of just kind of trial and error selection there. hide and show on this one here is going to help me once again take care of this little effort. I'm not actually going to worry about that one because that's kind of sitting on the inside. So we'll go ahead and take his nose and make it just a nice black. And we're looking a little bit better on the shape that we've got there. Oh, got a couple of faces up here I might have gone a little too far with. So let's just take those guys and we'll drop those back to yellow. Back to that yellow color. There we go. Right, loving it. Okay, so Odie's looking pretty good right now, I have to say. Let's do a little bit of that work to his body as well. I think his body's not going to be quite as narrow as I initially projected here. So from the side view here, I'm just going to grab everything kind of south of his neck region there. And from our side, let's go ahead and scale that up a little bit more. That's pretty good there. I think that's probably more about the shape the body is going to be in more of that third dimension. So that looks pretty good, and we're going along the lines of more cartoony even as we go there. And then these faces, just for fun, I'm, kind of a little bit obsessive compulsive trying to make things look as realistic as I go. So let's just go ahead and grab those faces individually and turn those to black as well. That looks awesome. All right, so at this point, let me just go ahead and hit save. I realized I haven't saved this part. So let's go ahead and just make sure that ODIE is safe and sound, saved to the platform, and hence accessible to anybody on my team who has permissions to this data and has an internet connection. So super convenient for what we're working on right there. Okay, another thing I want to get for a little bit more realism here is maybe we'll go ahead and play with his expression here for a second. When we're looking at the eyeballs that we have here, I just want to go ahead and play with that before I start taking care of the legs. And to do that, let me just go ahead and edit a little bit of what this eyeball's position is going to look like. So we're going to do that by grabbing everything that we have here. And I need that picture back visible. So let's just go ahead and do that as well. All of the stuff that I have on screen, I'm going to work on his expression a little bit by taking, what is a nice oriented position here. And let's just go ahead and tilt this a little bit. I think that's going to add just a little bit to the expression that we see on his face and maybe bring those eyes in so that they touch each other a little bit. So let's do the exact same thing over on the opposite side that we're seeing here. I could mirror that body over to that side, but I think you can see what we're going for here, right? We start to get the whole part here kind of moving inward and rotating a little bit, right? And then that adds to a little bit more of the expression. Now, as addition to the expression here, we can add some pupils onto this if we wanted to. Now, I was concerned with where I was going to do this and what point in the process, but I think what I want to do here is just go ahead and see what we can get. So on this face, I actually just want to go ahead and put a nice little subdivide on that because that's going to add a spot right here in the center, which kind of plays the part of that pupil. Now, with that in play, let's see what I can do about grabbing some of these faces that we've got here. We're going to control select all of these faces. Yeah, you too. I just zoomed way in. And then let's kind of move some of these faces upward. Now, if you see what I've got here, I actually grabbed an entire loop around. And I don't want to do that. So let me just go ahead and just use a control select just to very specifically grab these faces. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, with that being said, let's look at this from the side and start pulling those up and in. Okay, see, I don't want to change the expression too much, but I want to get that eyeball roughly where it needs to be, right? So maybe up in the front and the center, kind of move that thing over. What this gives me, if this works out nicely, and it's kind of working out okay here, is it kind of gives me a spot here that I can go ahead and turn a color, right? We'll grab the color wheel up here and we'll just give him a nice black pupil to that. And it kind of helps a little bit, right? But you see his expression here. This pupil is a bit more oval or oblong. So using this, what I want to do is kind of make that pupil, that oval and oblong. That's not too bad. That's not too bad, but I'd like to maybe, again, I'm a little OCD when it comes to this. Let's go ahead and really deal with that nicely. Now, symmetry might be a great way to do this, but I'm really close to having this looking nice. So I don't mind just kind of doing that little fine-tuning touch there myself. Okay, so we've got a little bit of an expression right there. Let's see if we can duplicate that over here on the right-hand side. All right, maybe we'll go ahead and take this one and try it slightly different. I'm going to grab these inside faces and we'll do our subdivide on that one. Now, using these couple of faces here, maybe we'll try this a little different way, right? We'll take some of these faces in. Yeah, I'm not digging that. Control Z, Control Z. Let's not do that. Let's maybe go ahead and just pick the one face and subdivide that. Yeah, I'm digging that better. So we'll grab the faces that we can see here on the front, and let's just kind of position those over to a spot that works a little better. So can we move those over, maybe roll them around a little bit, kind of up, in, and then let's kind of scale those just a little bit more. I'm going to scale them all together. That wasn't so bad. All right, good. We're just going to leave that as that, and again, refine that as we go. But I want this face right here to be the same as the other pupil. All right, pretty good. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, let's get rid of the picture one more time, just to get an idea for what kind of expression we're starting to look at. See, it's kind of getting there. It's kind of getting there. It's not so bad. All right, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing here. All right, very good. So I want to go ahead and just kind of move these things up a little bit more. I know that his pupil needs to be just a little bit further up. So let's go ahead and kind of take care of that just a little bit without changing the overall shape of this, this eyeball too much. Bad. And then from there, we're just going to take the entire thing and just tilt it a little bit more because, you know, at this point, if we can get those pupils up and out, that's probably going to be a little bit more to the specifics of what we need positionally here, right? So let's just take what we've got here and we'll move that up and out. So side view it, good. And I want to take my robot and actually specifically make it XYZ positioning. That's what we're going to do here. Good. So let's go up and kind of out a little bit. Not bad. All right, see what we got. Yeah, it's getting there. Definitely a challenging part for what I'm attempting here, though, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to see what I could do with this if I just kind of went into it blind and just started playing. And I'm having a lot of fun with this, I got to be honest with you. It's an interesting exercise that we've got going on here. So really, really, really kind of cool stuff. All right, well, the way he shows, again, is his eyes are kind of, you know, out on his face, kind of out on his own. So we're going to use a little bit more of that positioning, I think, to get this guy in place. And we'll see if we just made him cross-eyed, because I could have made him cross-eyed. Oh boy, look at that. Yeah, I got some control copied faces here. We're gonna just kind of undo a few of these things. Oh boy. Okay. Let's leave it at that for now. Not so bad. All right, great. I would love to go ahead and just create the tail just to kind of get the first part of him done. And maybe we'll go ahead and use the legs and the tongue there on a third part of this video. So let's go ahead and finish up with our last piece here, which is going to be the little waggy tail up at the top. Now the little waggy tail here is going to be actually quite simple. We're going to start off with a new subdivisional body, and I think we're just going to use a cylinder for this. Because with a cylinder, I can really go ahead and refine this thing down, make it really, really, really tiny. That's pretty good. Doesn't necessarily need to be this long as well. So we'll go ahead and take it down to there. And then that looks good. Now, with that created as kind of a general shape, we're right there on the center plane, so we're just going to go ahead and move this sort of down into position. Now, with it, I'm going to grab some of the points on the top here, and we're going to narrow those a little bit more. Again, if you grab one direction here with the Alt key selected, it actually works everything down relatively and scaled uniformly into that direction. So it's bidirectional when it comes to the scaling there. So I'm going to grab these top faces here, maybe pull them up, twist them a little bit. As you're doing that, again, you're seeing that everything else that we have down here is actually moving in order to go ahead and exert that influence on what we've got down here. Now, for a moment, I want to go ahead and take that picture, and I just want to take it down a notch because I need it for influence, but remember, I turned that transparency off before. It's got me a little bit distracted, so I wanted to turn that down just a bit, and then we'll just double-click and come right back into the tail body that we're working on right now. Now, I don't need quite as much transparency on the tail body either, so it's a little bit of a balancing act. I'd like to see what we're working on over here just a little bit better. Okay, I want another subdivision in here, or another loop actually. We're going to go ahead and grab that edge and just add a new loop to it. It gives me more control and influence in this area. We're going to take this and kind of make it a little bit bigger, maybe go ahead and scale that over. And a lot of this stuff on the front, we're going to go ahead and emphasize a little bit more. So maybe I'll come over here and I'll just do a little interesting little loop select, or a lasso select, if you will, sorry. And we'll take that, and I'm just going to use the Alt key to kind of expand everything out in different directions. It's really kind of fun what actually happens as you're starting to figure out what shapes you can create with this. It's just an enjoyable way to model in a way that I've just never really modeled before with my mechanical background. So that's one of those things that I find just incredibly fun about this product in general. Okay, let's finish this up. We'll get just a little bit more influence again right there, some on the back, and I think we're looking pretty darn good when it comes to the tail we've created. Maybe a little bit wider on the bottom. Heck, why not? So we'll window select all these points here, and again with the Alt key, we'll just uniformly scale that up. All right, that's a little bit better. Let's say okay to that, and now we're looking pretty good. Nice job. So with the final part here, I want to take what we have here as our original body of ODIE, and we're just going to hide that real quick so that I can just colorize his tail here using the last step in this part of the process. So same thing as the faces that we have up there for his ears. We want to go ahead and make those a nice brown, and I'm going to take that brown and just drag it down a bit more. That's pretty good. All right, there we go. With everything else back showing, maybe we'll go ahead and just take a look at where we're at in this process. Not so bad. And then we'll hide our image. So we do have a bit of work yet to do, but at this point, things are going, and it's all about learning the tools, and the more stick time you have, the better you get at things. So we'll catch you in the third segment of this. We'll go ahead and finish him up.